Hi everyone and welcome back to the Crafty Yellow Camper. Today we're just going to have a quick ink technique video. And you can see I'm using an aqua pen and I have a piece of watercolour paper. I've already squeezed some water onto my watercolour paper and I'm just going over it to give it a good wash of water before we start. Okay, it's a good way of creating a background. So we're going to start with some purples. I'm going to make this card into a birthday card. You can see the water has made the watercolour paper bounce up in an arc. Don't worry, it will flatten back down. Just going to push it down. It's just purely with the water sitting on the surface it's made it do that. Okay, so we are just going to go in with some of the lightest colour first. These new Stampin' Up! Ink pads, if you give them a squeeze, you can still get ink on to the inside. It's not as easy as the older ink pads were because they had a little bit more play in them. I'm just going to, but it can be done. If not, you can always put some ink onto an acrylic block and pick it up from there. Now this is, I'm just going to take some off the ink pad there. Not really recommended to do this. You're better off to put it on a silicone sheet or a block. So let me show you how to do that. We'll just use a silicone sheet for now. Just take one of these little handy size ones out. Great size for in the Stamparatus these are. Okay, so if we open the ink pad up properly, I'm just going to move these slightly out of the way off camera so you can see what I'm doing. Bring that over. So this is one of our silicone rubber sheets. You can see through it. I'm just going to give that a little bit of ink down there onto the sheet and squeeze a little bit of water on it, and then you can see we can pick up the colour quite easily. And the great thing about these is that you can just rinse them under the tap and leave them to dry, or dry them on a bit of kitchen towel and it's gone. Okay, so I'm just going to wipe this over. You'll see I'm working on a piece of kitchen paper. It's just purely to stop my desk getting too messy. Okay, so that's some of the lightest colour, and we've just done a quick colour wash down the middle with that. Now we're going to start adding in some of the other colours. So that one was Purple Posy. Okay, we're going to start getting a little bit darker now, so we're going to go in with some Highland Heather. So this is just a darker shade of purple. If you were painting with this aqua painter, you would obviously wash it in between, but because I'm just using it to go down to darker colours, you can get away with doing this without rinsing it out. Okay, so we're just giving that a bit of a colour up the middle. Okay. Okay, and then we're going to go in with the darkest one, which is Gorgeous Grape. You can see already that how much darker that ink pad is. So we are just going to drop some water on that, and you'll see I'm using quite a wide brush. If I wanted to use the really dark colour, I wouldn't bother putting any water on here, and I'd just pick it up straight from the silicone sheet. Now, by squeezing a little bit more water through it, that sort of lightens it up, you can see. Okay, and we just want to lightly go. What we don't want is streaky lines. We want it to blend in. So by putting a little bit more water on there, you can see the watercolour card has settled down now quite nicely. Okay, so just give it that a bit more water, and it really doesn't matter if you end up with too much water on the card, because watercolour cardstock is meant for doing this, and you can mop it off with a piece of kitchen roll. Okay, so you can see we've got quite a lot of water on there. I just want to get that fairly evenly covered. Okay, I want to use this card for sort of a night sky background, so let's just add a little bit more of that in there. Okay, and we can always go back over with some of the lighter colours. You can start with the darker colour first and add the lighter colour in if you prefer to, but this was just showing you that you can go down a few shades. Right, okay, so we're going to move that one out of the way, and then we're going to come in with some Magenta Madness, but I have got another silicone sheet I can use that on, but just for ease of the camera, I'm just going to wipe that purple off there. You can see we've got an awful lot of ink on there. There you go. This wipes up quite nicely. I'll probably have purple fingers now. Oh, not too bad. Okay, so we're going to just add some pink to that. So I'm just going to put a little bit, this is one of the new in colours, Magenta Madness. I'm just going to pop a little bit of that onto the corner there because it's quite a dark pink as well. And I will rinse my brush out a little bit. We've already put quite a lot of water through it. So, okay, and we're just going to give that a little bit of a pink wash. We want sort of a sunset, ideally. Okay, right, and then here comes the fun bit. Now we've got our, you can see how much ink is left on that from me just mopping that off on the kitchen roll. Now we've got our sort of main part. I want to go back in with a bit more purple. The reason I didn't put it on too heavily is because I'm going to use re-inkers. So this is a Highland Heather re-inker. Now this card is really properly saturated. So if we just put a drop, you'll see how that is going to spread. It's spreading out into the water and the ink is just moving around, and you can lift and tip your card if you want it to, or you can go in with your piece of kitchen roll and lift out a bit of colour, which is what I want to do. So I'm just going to take this piece of kitchen roll because we've done the messiest part now, and you can see you can just dab and ink, lift up. You can see how much ink has soaked into that piece of kitchen roll. So you can dab and lift up the ink. I'm going to have another couple of blobs of Highland Heather. Just going to try and get tiny splot in there, and you can see how it's spreading. I think my desk must be on the wonk a little bit because it's all going to the right. So let's just tip that back a little bit. And we can encourage that to spread around, and then just mop the most intense colour off and transfer a bit round with what we've got on the kitchen towel. And then we are going to go in with some gorgeous grape, which is that darkest purple that we used. And I think what's happening now is that my cardstock is starting to dry off. Now ordinarily I'd keep a mister, a spray bottle mister, to hand, but I haven't, so we can go back in with the aqua blender. There you go. And that has caused that to really spread that ink. So I'm just going to mop some of that off because we don't want it that dark. Transfer a bit over there. Okay. And then we're going to just try and add in a little bit. Ideally I'd use the re-inker for the Magenta Madness, but unfortunately due to customs issues they're not actually available yet, so I'm just going to add in a bit with my brush where I feel it should go. That's it. And then we can just go back over with some more water to make that run and blend a little bit more. There we go. Okay, and while that's all nice and wet, I'm just going to pop a bit more of the Highland Heather down. Just to spread that out a little bit more. I love watching how the ink reacts in a puddle of water. You see here we've got quite a lot of water there, and I love how it reacts. It's almost like watching a jellyfish. There we go, and we can spread that round a little bit. This is also a good way to do a sky for a sort of a nighttime sky with stars, a constellation if you like. There you go, and we're just going to tip some of that down there, which will lighten up that colour and give us a good colour on the piece of watercolour paper. Okay, so let's just try and unfold my kitchen roll a little bit, and we're just going to take off the worst of that water. Now, ordinarily doing this, I would leave this to dry overnight. The way to speed it up is to use a heat gun. So I'm just going to move these ink pads to one side so they're not in our way, and I'm going to bring in my heat gun. Now, you'll notice that as soon as I start to heat, the paper will try and curl. Please excuse the noise while I just quickly do this. It doesn't take very long. Okay. If you haven't mopped the water off and you've still got liquid water on there, you can sort of use the heat gun. I don't know if you can see that moving around. You can use the heat gun to move the colour around a little bit more. Okay, I think I've fairly securely stuck it to the desk because it's so wet. Now, there you go, you can see it's starting to curl. So once we get a little bit more of that water heated off, what we can do is turn it over, and that should flatten it out again. Okay, can you see it's curling up this way? Right, so let's turn it back. Give it a final dry on the front, and you can see it start to relax down flat onto the desk. If you were to leave it to dry overnight, it would flatten out of its own accord as it dries. Basically, as you've used the water on the watercolour paper, it's stretched the fibres in the paper, and that's what makes it arc up a little bit. And then once you dry it, it starts to flatten out again. But if it doesn't flatten completely, it's not a problem, because we're going to attach it to our card with some either wet glue or tape runner anyway. Okay, so that's still a little bit damp, and we want to stamp on it, and we don't really want the stamped images to run, because obviously our ink pads, oh, must have had a puddle under there. Oh no, I'm bubbling up the laminated mat underneath. Okay, so we're almost there. Okay, let's turn that off. Don't put that down on a surface that isn't protected from heat. And that is almost dry now. You can see I can just flatten it out. It's not wet, it's dry to the touch. I can flatten that out. Push that bubble back down on my laminated mat. Okay, I can flatten that out, and I've gone ahead and I've cut a piece of Highland Heather cardstock that we're going to mount that on. But first I want to do some stamping, and I thought today I would use this stamp set, which is called Special Someone. It's a 2-step stamp set. So you've got a little mouse, a squirrel, and this gorgeous raccoon, some flowers, and then a heart-shaped balloon and a normal shaped balloon, and again they're 2-step stamping. So the best way to do that is to stamp in the Stamparatus. So I'm just going to bring that in. Really must put a new piece of grid paper on there, that's getting really messy. Oh, don't do that. Don't let your magnets get next to each other. Oh, they'll do that. And because they can shatter, mine are wrapped in some tape, because when they do shatter they go into quite a lot of small pieces. Okay, so we're just going to put that in here. Now the easiest way to do 2-step stamping is to line it up in your Stamparatus, and I'm really sorry if you're getting a good look at my fuzzy hair today, just to try and make sure that's lined up. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use this raccoon. So we need to do the base stamp first, and then we're going to go ahead and put the detail on top. So what I thought we'd do, actually we need some foliage around him first, so I know where to put him. I think, no, we'll do him first. So we're going to put him sort of in the middle there somewhere. So let's position him where we want him to be. Put down the door on the Stamparatus and open it up. Other stamp platforms are available, although in my opinion this is one of the best ones. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Right, so we're going to go in with the darkest purple that we had, which was Gorgeous Grape. And we're just going to ink him up and press him down. And you can see already we've got the background of the little raccoon. And then we want to add the detail in. So what I'm going to do in this instance is add the detail in with some black ink. I wouldn't normally use black, but because we've got such a dark background, we needed, oh sorry, just jogged the camera there. Because we've got such a dark background, we needed to use a dark ink on our raccoon. I'm just going to pull him off there. I'll wash that later. Okay, now what we need to do is line this one up. So this is the one with all the detail on it, and we need to line him up. And this is not very easy when you've got a camera in your face. So excuse me, you might just see a bit of my head. Just line him up as best I can. Ordinarily I'd get my head right over the image, but because I'm filming this for you, obviously I can't get my head right over it without knocking myself out on the camera mount. Okay, so I'm using a VersaFine, so let's just ink up his detail and keep our fingers crossed that we actually got it lined up. Okay, there we go. Right, there we are. That wasn't bad considering I was a little bit out on his ear, but that wasn't too bad considering I can't see what I'm doing really. Okay, and the beauty of the Stamper Artis is if we want to make it a little bit darker, we can go in and ink him up again and go back in. Make sure we give it all a good press. There we go. And we've got a bit more detail. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go in with the balloon. So just for the string of the balloon, I'm just going to freehand stamp that. He wants to look like he's holding it in his hands. So we're going to go there with the string for the balloon. And then we can go in with, I'll just wipe that raccoon off a little bit. We can go in with the balloon and line that up now. So let's get rid of that. So the balloon again comes in two parts. So we've got the base part and then we've got the detail. So if we put the base part on first and pick that up, you'll notice that it's lifted the cardstock a little bit. So just go back in and realign it. It does that because these are new stamps. And this time we want the Magenta Madness balloon. So we're going to go in with that lovely pink. Okay, I can see already that it's a little bit high, but we'll deal with that in a second. And then we're going to go back in and line up for the detail. Again, apologies if you're now looking at my hair. It's really, I didn't appreciate how hard this is to do until you actually try and do it. Okay, so I'll pick that up and we will hope that I've lined it up. And you can see that the balloon is just a little bit higher than the string. It was a little bit difficult to see the angle that I'm at, but what I can do is go in with a pen. There you go. Look, I managed to line the heart up better than the raccoon. I'll go in with a pen and just join that up a little bit later. So we're going to take that out of there now. Just put that to one side for the minute. And what I want to do now is give this some foliage around the edge. So we're going to put our black to one side and we are going to bring in some foliage from the Forever Fern stamp set. I'm going to use this piece here and this piece, I think. So I've already mounted those on some blocks. Now these are red rubber. If you'd have been stamping this on your desk and not using a stamping platform, you would have wanted to put a stamping mat underneath it just to give it a little bit of give. These are red rubber, so these obviously already come with their mat underneath. So I think we need a fairly dark green because this is meant to be a nighttime card. So if you'll forgive me just standing up a minute, I'm going to grab some Pretty Peacock and some Shaded Spruce, both of which are quite dark colours. So, and I love the way foliage, green foliage often does look almost blue at night. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in with him and we are just going to use the corner of the stamp. I just want to go round and make it look like our raccoon is sort of popping in with some from the foliage, like he's standing in a little arc of foliage. There we go. Just pop a little bit in there. That's that one. Okay, and then we're going to go in with, I think we're going to do a bit of both colours in this. So I'm just going to take this in to fill in the gaps. Okay, and then I think what we'll do is we'll go back and we'll add some of the shaded spruce. This is not for the faint-hearted that don't like messy. There we go. Let's just add some of that darker shaded spruce in there. There we go. Okay. Now, this is a card for one of the children that I look after. She's quite a girly girl, hence the pink and blue background. Or pink and purple, I should say. But it wouldn't be a proper girly card without a little bit of Wink of Stella. So I'm just going to bring in my Wink of Stella pen here, give it a shake. Make sure we've got some in the barrel. And we're going to give the balloon a bit of shimmer. There we go. I don't know if you can really catch that on the camera. Oh, there. I don't know if you can see it's giving that a lovely bit of shimmer. And what we're going to do, we're just going to give him a bit of shading around his ears. Cover that in there. Join the balloon string with a little bit of glimmer as well. There we go. Okay, you can have a little bit of glimmer around his face. Because he is a magical nighttime raccoon. I've got no idea whether raccoons come out at night or not. Perhaps one of you might like to enlighten me. Let me just give him a little bit of a grounding with some Wink of Stella as well. And this will actually darken down the ink colour a little bit because it's basically alcohol based. Right, there we go. So we just wait for that to dry for a little bit, and I think we need a greeting. As I said, it's for a birthday card. And there are some quite nice greetings in here, so I think we're going to go for obviously the happy birthday, and there is a very special someone, I think it is. Yes, for a very, very special someone, so we're going to go for that one as well. So we'll just pull in a thin block to put those on. So this is the very special someone. You can't see what I'm doing because I've just realised I'm off screen. So I'm just lining that up on the lines on my grid paper. I'm going to go in again with, actually I think we'll go in with the pink again. Let's hope I don't ruin it at this point after doing all this work on it. So we've got for a very special someone. It's going to go in there. Again, I have no idea whether this is straight. Probably not. And then we want to take that one off and go in with the happy birthday. And this one isn't in a straight line, so just give it a bit of an idea. I'm sorry if you can hear a lot of noise. The children next door are out in the garden. And I think they're probably up to no good from what I can see. Here, sorry. Right. Okay, and we're going to go in with that on there. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to mount that up. I'm just going to give my fingers a wipe because I don't want to put smudges on it. Okay. I'm going to need to scrub my fingers. You haven't had fun making a card if it's not messy, is what I always think. Or if you're not messy, I should say. Right, okay. Quick wipe and I'll clean that properly later. Just give that a minute to dry, otherwise we'll end up with wet marks on our paper. Okay, so we are going to put that on to the front of our card base. Make sure we've got the opening at the top. And the card base is half of an A4 sheet if you're in the UK, half of whatever size yours is in America if you're watching from America, although I don't think I've got anyone watching from the States yet. And the folded in half, and then the matte layer, the watercolour paper that we used, is 14.3 by 10, which just gives a nice little border around the edge. So what we're going to do, just looking at that, thinking if it needs something else, but I thought that'll be okay. So we're just going to use some, I don't want to do, I'm just going to turn this over because I don't want to lay it down on a wet sheet and smudge the ink. Okay, I've got stamps flying everywhere. Okay, so we're going to use some of our new Stampin' Seal, which is the replacement for Snail. Again, same as Snail, it comes with a refill, but there's a little bit less plastic gets thrown away with this one, which I like. Okay, it's really, really sticky. Let's open up our card base so that we can line that up. Try and get it straight. It's really not easy with the camera in the way. Okay, there we go, and that's our finished card. She's going to be 10. I hope she likes it. There we go. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please click the bell, click the subscribe button I should say, and click the bell to be notified of any of my other YouTube videos that I post. The subscribe button and the bell is just sort of down here somewhere. I'd love to have you join me next time. Thanks for watching. Happy stamping. Bye.